Hello and welcome to Understanding ACE Accreditation, brought to you by Bishop Mackenzie International School. This particular segment is relevant for the school leadership who are looking to put together a synchronized CIS and ACE learning principles visit. As a leadership team, we reflected quite deeply about the most efficient ways in which to prepare the school for the ACE accreditation. While NEASC was aligned with the CIS 8th edition, this was a reasonably well-known structure, but the introduction of the new ACE protocol made us reflect quite deeply about our intended processes.
When we knew we were going to be having a synchronized visit, I think the general feeling before the process started was that we were very concerned as a school about the change in direction both CIS and NEASC were taking with their new models. Trying to get an idea of how a synchronized visit would look with what seemed to be somewhat of a divergence in philosophies.
We discussed the process for preparing for the ACE documentation in the leadership team meetings, and one thing that really concerned me was the potential for confusion and overload. Let's face it, the school's a busy place at the best of times, with perpetual demands to revise the curriculum and implement change. And with the new protocols from both CIS and NEASC, along with new portals for each of these, there was a silent alarm going on in the back of my mind that maybe we would be overloading them.
We started looking at the new ACE model in October 2016, a year before our scheduled visit. We saw at that time that the ACE model fitted very well with the IB philosophies. We were already looking at the CIS accreditation standards in the leadership group at that time, and we're aware that the logistics were being looked at by both bodies to figure out how the synchronized visit would actually look.
For us, it was important to start our reflections and meetings quite early. Although I'm sure there are schools that could push it through just in time for the report writing. Having said that, we don't see accreditation as a process with certain hurdles to jump through every few years, but rather we refer to the accreditation guidelines as a means to shape our thinking on a continual basis.
Firstly, 8 working teams based around the CIS domains were formed in early April 2017. And we scheduled 4 one-hour-long Friday afternoon meetings for our staff from April through to the end of May. We placed a minimum number of members to each committee as 5 and a maximum to 12. Felt that was an optimum balance.
Now, we're lucky in that all of our staff are pretty conversant with using Google Docs and Google Drive, and so we took the decision that we would use this platform for all of our preliminary report writing, and not to open up the ACE portal to all staff at all. Now, I like many aspects of the ACE portal, and it's got some great features, don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, the familiarity with Google Docs, which gave us the ability to comment and to edit concurrently, was actually a good choice for us.
ACE working parties were set up at the start of the academic year in August 2017, with our first whole school meeting scheduled for early September. Again, we assigned certain teachers to certain groups according to experience, and Google folders were set up for evidence collection and report writing.
Now, for us, it seemed to work well having meetings spaced out, as this allowed us to have meaningful discussions and brainstorming during the meeting, but it gave people plenty of time to go back to their sections of the school and to look for appropriate evidence, or to take photographs and videos, and actually to reflect more deeply about the impact of learning. And then the next meeting they could bring it back together again to do any final review and editing.
Google Drive started to be used as our main record-keeping tool. Evidence started to be collected. We set up a number of folders on Google Drive to allow the committees to drop evidence into, for example, videos, photos, documents.
For us, we defined the tasks and we set expectations of what the discussions would look like, collecting information and evidence and setting deadlines. And then we basically left the staff to get on with it. We'd allocated the leadership team into various committees, and with the documentation set up on Google Docs, it was fairly easy to keep an eye on the development and the progress.
I think when it comes to collating the reports, you have to be conscious of the technological expertise of the people on your staff, and it varies greatly. I think to open too much of the final platform that we're going to use too early to staff. Perhaps once things had been put together and they were fed small sections at a time, that was better. I think to have a small group who worked with both platforms was much better.
We found using Google Drive to be highly beneficial throughout the process. Primarily, it gave the working committees the ability to work more collaboratively, both in meetings and when working individually outside of meeting times. It also gave all staff the chance to view and contribute ideas or artifacts to all of the learning principles.
Google Docs and Google Drive are a very common way of sharing documents that we're used to using in school, and I think to use this as a platform, not perhaps in the early stages, but as we were getting the report together at a later stage, it meant that we were able to collaborate really well as a management team, and information that had been fed to us from committees was easily shared. I think it was less time consuming than doing it any other way. It was very efficient.